Part 1. The Last Straw. The minute the grilled salmon with pineapple salsa landed on the table, Daniel Scott, my son-in-law, chuckled, raising his glass of iced tea. You know, it must be nice to be retired, Raiden. Just sitting around, money keeps rolling in. No work, no stress. All smiles and sunshine. Everyone froze. A few people offered strained, awkward smiles, but I didn't. It was a cloudy Saturday evening, and the air carried the scent of an approaching rain. I was sitting at the dining table in the house of my daughter, Una, and Daniel in the Oak Creek Estate subdivision in Phoenix, Arizona. This 2-story, 2,000-square-foot house looked impressive, especially after the kitchen remodel last year, a remodel that I had paid for. The table was laden with classic American comfort food, crispy fried chicken, creamy mac and cheese, tangy coleslaw, sweet tea, and warm dinner rolls. This was supposedly a small celebration because Daniel had just been promoted to district sales manager at an electronics company in Scottsdale. The atmosphere was initially warm. Ethan, my 12-year-old grandson, sat quietly next to his younger sister Chloe, who was cheerful but sometimes too sensitive. Una, my 41-year-old daughter, smiled, serving the guests. She used to work for the Department of Economic Development but quit after her second child was born. Since then, her life had depended on Daniel. And on me. Daniel started talking about his job, the promotion, the sales targets, the new marketing strategies, the productive lifestyle. His voice was loud and brimming with self-confidence. Then, the conversation shifted to retirement. That's when Daniel, wearing a smile that didn't reach his eyes, tossed out the barbed comment. Me? I don't want to be one of those old guys who just sits at home, living off their kids' charity, he said, taking a bite of his mac and cheese. It must be easy for you, Mr. Miller, just enjoying the money without working, leaving us to worry about the mortgage and bills. The table fell silent. Una didn't defend me. She only gave a small, nervous laugh, pretending not to hear. Ethan and Chloe exchanged confused glances, sensing the tension. I slowly set down my fork and looked at Daniel with a calm gaze. In that case, Daniel, starting next month, you can pay for everything yourself, I said, my voice low but firm. Daniel choked. His smile evaporated. He tried to laugh again, but this time it was only to mask his embarrassment. Una stiffened, her face draining of colour. Chloe looked close to tears. Ethan dropped his fork onto his plate, the clang loud in the sudden silence. No one dared to speak after that. I rose from my chair, gave a quiet thank you, kissed Chloe and Ethan on the cheek, and left. Outside, the promised rain had begun, a light drizzle. I drove slowly toward my house in Flagstaff. The road was quiet, only the sound of the wipers and the raindrops for company. Daniel's words kept replaying in my mind. It was more than an insult, it was a slap in the face after 17 years of sacrifice. 17 years of funding their lives, and this was my reward. When I got home, I went straight to my home office, turned on the desk lamp, and sat in the old oak chair my late wife bought me in 2005. I looked out the window. The rain was coming down harder now. I opened a drawer, pulled out my financial ledger and my cell phone. My fingers quickly typed out a message to my bank's automated services officer. Please stop all automatic transfers to the Scott's account, effective immediately. Thank you. I closed the phone, staring at the dark screen for a moment, then quietly muttered to myself, tomorrow morning, they'll find out who's really been paying for whose life all this time. My name is Raiden Miller. I'm 67, a widower, and a retired civil engineer from the Department of Transportation. I've lived alone in my inherited home in Flagstaff since my wife passed away from uterine cancer in 2006. Since then, I'd promised to look after Una and my grandchildren until they could stand on their own 2 feet. But that independence never arrived. 17 years passed, and what started as temporary became permanent. That night, I didn't go straight to bed. I sat in the office, opening an old filing cabinet. Inside, there was a large plastic storage container filled with hundreds of transfer slips, payment receipts, and school fee statements for the kids. Everything dated back to 2007. I'd always kept meticulous records, a habit from my engineering days. I opened them one by one. Proof of their mortgage payments, proof of their SUV loan payments, tuition for Ethan and Chloe's private school, the kitchen, renovation receipts, receipts for vacations to San Diego, the Grand Canyon, and Denver, health insurance payments, piano lessons, school supplies. Everything was there. A quick tally showed the total was close to $1.9 million. I remembered how the aid began. In 2007, Daniel was laid off. Their house was almost foreclosed on. I paid 6 months of the mortgage in a single lump sum. In 2008, Una gave birth to Chloe and quit her job. I helped with the delivery costs and baby supplies. From 2009 to 2015, the kids started school. Tuition, fees, field trips, computers for online learning. I paid for all of it. In 2017, I retired, but I kept helping, even though my income was much lower. From 2019 to 2022, they asked for a kitchen renovation, an AC upgrade, and big family vacations. Every request was fulfilled. They used to give me homemade cookies, greeting cards, and warm hugs every Christmas. But that slowly faded. It was replaced with sentences like, "Dad, we're a little tight this month. Can you cover the tuition?" Or, "Dad, Chloe's piano lesson isn't paid yet." There was no more please, no more thank you. It was as if helping them was my obligation. I wasn't angry. I was disappointed. I felt like a live ATM without any respect. And that night, I knew if I didn't stop now, they would never learn. I pulled out a set of colored folders from the shelf and began organizing the documents. I labeled red for the mortgage, yellow for school, green for medical and emergencies, and blue for leisure and non-essential expenses. I printed the reports from my bank app and placed them in the folders. I titled the main file, the 17-year tally, giving without being asked. The next morning the phone rang, an unfamiliar number, but I knew who it was. I answered. "Mr. Miller, this is the bank. The automatic debit to the account of Una Scott failed this month." I offered a small smile, though she couldn't see it. "That was intentional, Mum. From now on, they'll learn how to live." Part 2, The Reckoning. 2 hours after the bank call, my phone rang again. This time, Una's name appeared on the screen. I let it ring until it went to voicemail. 5 minutes later, it rang again. I answered. "Dad!" Una's voice sounded frantic. "Dad, the bank just told me the mortgage payment failed. They said the auto debit was stopped." "Why, Dad? What's going on?" I paused, letting her wait. Then I answered, my voice even and calm. "Because I stopped it, Una." "Why, Dad?" "This is our house. If we're late, we'll get charged a penalty, or worse, face foreclosure. That is your and Daniel's responsibility now, not mine anymore." "Dad, this is about last night, isn't it? Daniel was just kidding. He didn't mean it." A hurtful joke is still hurtful, Una. And this isn't just about last night, it's about 17 years. Una fell silent. I could hear her sharp intake of breath. "Dad, please, not right now. We aren't ready." "When will you be ready, Una? Hasn't 17 years been enough?" I hung up. My hand was shaking slightly, but my heart was resolute. This wasn't about revenge. It was about forcing them back to reality and restoring my own dignity. I opened my desk drawer and pulled out an old notebook. Inside, there was a handwritten note from my wife before she passed. One sentence read, "Raiden, you are too kind. Sometimes limitless kindness can destroy the people we love. Learn to say no." I had never truly said no until tonight. Tomorrow they would begin to feel what life was like without a safety net, and I would begin to live with my self-respect intact. When I was silent, they attacked. When I helped, they were silent. but when I stopped, they cried foul. Monday morning, my phone rang 5 times from Una's number. I didn't pick up. Then, a barrage of frantic texts arrived, Dad. The bank issued an official notice. If we don't pay by the 27th, the penalty doubles. The next message was longer, more desperate. Dad, this isn't a game. We could lose the house. Please think about Ethan and Chloe. I read every text without replying. I set my phone down and brewed a cup of black coffee. This morning was bright. Sparrows chirped in the yard. I sat on the porch, enjoying my coffee and looking at the old mango tree my wife planted 25 years ago. That afternoon, Daniel called via video chat. His face was strained, but he still tried to sound composed. Dad, I know you're hurt, but this isn't the time to be emotional. The kids could lose their home. I stared at the screen, my expression flat. Whose money bought that house, Daniel? Daniel went silent. His jaw tightened. Then, without saying goodbye, he ended the call. The screen went dark. On Tuesday, external pressure started. The extended family WhatsApp group was buzzing. One of Una's cousins, Aunt Rachel, wrote, "Poor Una, abandoned by her father when she's struggling." The message was instantly followed by sad emojis and prayers from others. Then I saw a WhatsApp story from Daniel's account. A sad song playing, a photo of their house exterior with the caption, "Sometimes parents can be crueler than strangers." I screenshotted the story, not to reply, but for my archives. Proof of how they were spinning the narrative. That night, Uncle Richard, my cousin, called. His voice was filled with worry. "Raiden, is it true you stopped helping your daughter? During a crisis, no less. Think of your grandkids," I answered briefly. "I helped them for 17 years, Richard. Now it's time for them to help themselves." Uncle Richard was silent. "But Raiden family, you're cutting them off?" "Cutting them off is what they did when they insulted me in front of my own grandchildren. Cutting them off is when they treated my help like an obligation, not a kindness." Uncle Richard had no reply. He just said he'd pray for the best and hung up. Wednesday afternoon, I received a call from the music school where Chloe took piano lessons. Ms. Linda, her teacher, asked cautiously, "Mr. Miller, I apologize for bothering you. This is about Chloe's monthly lesson fee. It's a week overdue. You usually transfer it directly, so we called you first." I knew this would happen. "Ms. Linda, starting this month, please contact Chloe's parents directly. Her mother's number is in your school records, isn't it?" Ms. Linda hesitated. "Oh, right, Mr. Miller. Actually, Chloe's mother did call yesterday. She said you suddenly refused to pay, even though you love your grandchildren very much." My blood ran hot. So this is how they twist the story, making me look like a suddenly cruel, stingy grandfather. "Miss Linda, I love my grandchildren very much. But there is a difference between love and being exploited. Please contact her parents directly for all payments." "Thank you." I hung up, my hand trembling. Not from anger, but disappointment. They were not only dependent on me, but also twisting the truth to look like victims. Thursday morning, I received a call from an unknown number, a formal, adult male voice. "Good morning. Is this Mr. Raiden H. Miller?" "It is. How can I help you?" "I'm from PT Financial Multicard, sir. We are calling to confirm a 3-month overdue credit card bill under your name." I was stunned. "Credit card? I don't have a credit card. I closed all my accounts when I retired." The officer hesitated. "But in our system, sir, you are listed as the guarantor for a supplementary credit card under Daniel Scott's name." My blood pressure spiked. Daniel used my name as a guarantor without permission. "How much is the bill?" $1,300, sir, including interest and late fees." I closed my eyes, trying to calm down. I never signed any document to be a guarantor. "Please send a copy of that credit card application document to my email. If my signature is on it, we will proceed legally." The officer panicked. "All right, sir. We will re-examine the documents. I hung up. So, besides being dependent, Daniel had also forged documents using my name. This was no longer just about money. This was fraud. Friday afternoon, Ethan came to my house alone on his bike. His face was pale, his eyes puffy. "Grandpa, why are Mom and Dad always fighting now? Chloe cries all the time." "I'm scared, Grandpa." I hugged Ethan tight, my chest aching. This child was innocent. He was a victim of his parents' failings. "Sometimes adults have to learn how to be adults, even when they're old, son," I whispered. Ethan didn't understand my meaning, but he nodded slowly. Then he gave me a small envelope. "This is from Chloe. She asked me to give it to you." I opened the envelope. Inside was a handwritten note in a child's script. "Grandpa, I'm sorry. I love you. I miss coming to your house. I miss your cake. I'm sorry if Dad and Mom made you sad. I promise to be a good kid. Love, Chloe." Tears fell without my being able to stop them. I hugged Ethan again and whispered, "Grandpa loves you both. This is not your fault. Remember that." Ethan left that afternoon, carrying 2 boxes of my homemade cake, one for him and one for Chloe. Friday night, Una and Daniel arrived unannounced. They brought Chloe and Ethan. I opened the door, greeting them politely but without a smile. I told the children to play in the backyard. This meeting was only for the adults. Daniel immediately sat on the sofa without being invited. His face was strained but still stubborn. "Dad, this has gone too far. How long will this last? We're your children. Family is supposed to help each other." I sat in the chair opposite them. "Help each other, Daniel. Not one party constantly giving, and the other constantly taking." Una added, her voice trembling, "We're not asking for help forever, Dad, just until we're stable." I cut her off. "If you're not stable after 17 years, then when?" They fell silent. Daniel clenched his fist but didn't dare speak. Una looked down, tears starting to fall. I stood up, took the red folder from my desk, and threw it onto the coffee table in front of them. "This is all the proof of your mortgage payments. Over $880,000, all from my money." Then I took the yellow folder. "This is Ethan and Chloe's school costs. Over $580,000, all from my money." The green folder, medical and emergency costs. $120,000. The blue folder, renovation, vacations, lifestyle expenses. $315,000. I placed all the folders on the table. Daniel and Una stared at the stack of documents, their faces pale. The total is almost $2 million. 17 years, and the repayment I got was an insult in front of my own grandchildren. Una sobbed uncontrollably. Daniel bit his lip, his face flushed. I sat back down, looking at them calmly. "From now on, I will only help with my grandchildren's education and health. No more help for the mortgage, the car, or your lifestyle. If you still want my help, there are conditions." Daniel looked up. "What conditions?" "First, you must write a statement in the family group chat and the neighborhood group chat. Acknowledge that I have been financing your life all this time. Second, apologize directly to the neighborhood association president and the women's club members whom you have made believe that I am a wicked parent. Third, every month you must come to my house. Gather as a family, no excuses." Daniel stood up, his face crimson. "We are not criminals, Dad. This is like humiliating us." I looked at him coldly. "If you feel humiliated, it means you know it was wrong. I'm only asking for honesty." Una looked down, her hands shaking. Daniel took a long, ragged breath, then said in a hoarse voice, "If we don't agree, will you let your children and grandchildren suffer?" I stood up, looking Daniel straight in the eyes. "I will not let my grandchildren suffer. But you must learn what it feels like to live without a safety net. That is your own choice." Part 3. A New Foundation. They always said, just for a little while, until we're stable, But 17 years went by, and stability never came. The day after the tense meeting, Daniel did not come home. Una called me early in the morning, her voice breaking. "Dad, Daniel stayed at a friend's house. He said he won't come home yet. Chloe keeps asking where her dad is." I didn't know what to tell her. This was their problem now, not mine. "He's an adult, Una. He knows he has to take responsibility," Una cried on the phone. I ended the call with a heavy heart. That afternoon, Mrs. Harrison, Una's next-door neighbor, sent me a text. "Mr. Miller, I'm sorry to interfere, but the neighborhood group is buzzing. Someone said you cut ties with your own daughter. Is that true?" I replied simply, "Not true, Mrs. Harrison. I just stopped being used." Mrs. Harrison quickly replied, "I believe you, sir. I know you've been paying for their school and house all this time. It's just, well, a lot of people don't know the real story." Mrs. Harrison's message made me realize that the public narrative was already slanted. I was the antagonist in my own family story. Monday morning, I heard from Mr. Dave, an old friend of Daniel's who lived in the neighborhood. He said that Daniel and Una had a fierce argument on their lawn last night. Their voices carried down the street. "You're the one who ruined everything," Una screamed. "If you had worked years ago, we wouldn't be so dependent on him," Daniel yelled back just as loud. "All you're forcing our lifestyle. Now blame me." The neighbors began to peek out, whispering. Ethan and Chloe stayed inside, afraid to come out. Tuesday afternoon, Miss Linda, Chloe's piano teacher, wrote in the neighborhood women's club group, "I just found out that Mr. Miller has been financing all his daughter's family needs all this time. I thought they were doing well on their own because I often saw them traveling out of town." The message was instantly met with comments. Some were shocked, some said it made sense. The group that had been quiet was now alive with speculation. Mr. Dave also leaked something in the neighbor group. When Daniel bought the SUV, he used Mr. Miller's name as a guarantor. I know because I was asked to be a witness, but Mr. Miller said he never signed those documents. The group went crazy. Some people began questioning Daniel's integrity. Maybe the document was forged. I didn't comment in any group. I let the facts speak for themselves. Wednesday afternoon, something I never expected happened. One of Una's book club friends uploaded a video to TikTok. It recorded Una venting during their last gathering. Her voice was clearly audible. If you have rich parents, don't expect life to be easier. It just gets harder, controlled all the time, no freedom. The video went viral in the community, and even made it to a local gossip account, with the caption, "Helped for 17 years and still called stingy." Local netizen comments poured in. "Parents are not ATMs," one wrote. 17 years of help and still complaining," wrote another. Una called me hysterical. "Dad, the video is viral. Everyone in the neighborhood has seen it." "I'm so embarrassed, Dad," I answered calmly. "You should have been embarrassed from the start, Una. Not now that you've been exposed." Una cried loudly and hung up. Thursday morning, the event I feared finally arrived. A courier from the bank came to Una's house with 2 security guards. They posted a large red sticker on the front gate. The writing was bold, clear, and prominent. "This property is under foreclosure proceedings. Owners must contact the bank immediately." Neighbors stopped to stare. Mrs. Harrison took a photo from afar and sent it to me via WhatsApp. "Dad, has it really come to this?" I replied. They had a choice, but they didn't take it. Mr. Wallace, the neighborhood association president, came to my house that afternoon. His face was serious. "Mr. Miller, I heard your daughter's house is being foreclosed. Is it true you were paying the mortgage all this time?" I nodded. "It is, sir, but I stopped. They have to manage on their own now." Mr. Wallace was quiet, then nodded slowly. "I understand your position, sir, but I feel sorry for the kids. That's why I'm still helping with my grandchildren's education and health. But for their parents, they have to learn." Mr. Wallace patted my shoulder before leaving. "You're not wrong, Mr. Miller. It's just a difficult situation. Friday morning, Una called again. This time her voice was on the verge of despair. Dad, the leasing company towed our SUV this morning. Daniel tried to negotiate, but they refused. Everyone saw it, Dad. We were humiliated. I paused. That is the consequence, Una. You should have paid the installments on time. We don't have the money, Dad. Daniel's salary is only enough for daily expenses. Then whose money have you been living on all this time? Una couldn't answer. She only sobbed, then hung up. That afternoon, I received a notification from the utility company via text. Una's house electricity bill was 2 months overdue. If not paid within 3 days, the power would be cut. Friday night, their house was completely dark. Only a few candles lit the rooms. Ethan and Chloe studied by the faint flickering light. Una sat in the living room, staring blankly ahead. Daniel hadn't come home since morning. Saturday morning, I received a letter from the family lawyer. The contents were shocking. There was a request from Daniel to freeze the joint family account, citing the need for a fair distribution of inheritance. I had never drafted a will. I had never distributed any inheritance. This was Daniel's attempt to manipulate his way into my assets through legal channels. I immediately called the lawyer. Sir, I never agreed to this. Please cancel the process. The lawyer replied, Be careful, Mr. Miller. Honestly, we were suspicious because we had no supporting documents from you. But since it was your son-in-law who filed, we had to confirm. Please note, I do not give Daniel Scott any authorization regarding my assets. If he tries again, report it directly to me. Sunday afternoon, I received a message from Mrs. Harrison again. This time she sent a photo of a page from a notebook, child's handwriting with crayon doodles. Mr. Miller, this is Chloe's diary. Una found it and cried reading it. She allowed me to send it to you. I opened the photo. Chloe's writing was clear. If I could choose, I want to live with Grandpa. There is light at Grandpa's house. My house is dark all the time now. Dad and Mom are always fighting. I'm scared, Grandpa. When can I play at your house again? My tears fell, my chest tight. This child was innocent. She only wanted a peaceful family, but her parents were too busy blaming others to see their children suffering. Monday night my phone rang, Daniel's number. I let it ring a few times before answering. Dad. His voice was hoarse, tired, the arrogance gone. If we come on Sunday, will you still talk to us? I looked up at the night sky through the window. Stars were scattered across the sky and a cool breeze came through the gap. Just come. But this time, come with an honest heart, not with excuses. Daniel was silent for a moment. All right, Dad. Thank you. The call ended. I sat alone in the living room, hugging a sofa cushion, staring at my late wife's photo on the wall. Was I too harsh, my dear? I whispered softly. But I knew that sometimes true love requires the courage to say no, to let them fall so they can learn to stand on their own. I didn't need to shout. When the roots of entitlement run deep enough, the fall will come from within their own home. The following Sunday, at 10 a.m., they arrived. Daniel, Una, Ethan and Chloe got out of a rideshare car. No more SUV. Their faces were all pale, tired, their clothes crumpled. Una's eyes were puffy, a sign she had been crying all night. Daniel looked thinner, his face etched with strain. I opened the door calmly, greeting them politely but without a smile. Ethan and Chloe immediately hugged me tight. Chloe was sobbing in my arms. Grandpa, I miss you, Grandpa. I gently stroked her hair. I miss you too, sweetie. Then I directed Ethan and Chloe to the backyard. You two play in the back, all right? There's some apple pie and chocolate milk on the patio table. Your parents and I need to talk for a minute. The children nodded, walking to the back with slow steps. They knew this was serious. In the living room, I sat in the old oak chair. Daniel and Una sat on the sofa facing me. No one spoke for several minutes. Only the sound of the wall clock ticking. Finally, Daniel stood up and bowed his head deeply. His posture, usually straight and confident, now looked defeated. Dad, we failed. We became too used to living off your help. We never truly tried to be independent. We are sorry. His voice was hoarse, almost a whisper. This was the first time I had heard Daniel admit his fault with sincerity. Una was crying, then she pushed a large brown envelope onto the table. Her hands were shaking. Dad, this is our ledger. We rewrote everything you did for us. We realized we were ungrateful. I opened the envelope. Inside were printouts of expenses, tuition fees, bills, and their handwritten notes about everything I had done over 17 years. On the first page was a title in Una's handwriting, The Unfaithful Children. I read a few pages. They had recorded everything, the mortgage, the children's school, the renovation, the vacations, even the holiday cookies I bought them every year. It was all there. Una spoke, her voice trembling. Dad, we are willing to meet all your conditions. We will write the confession in the neighborhood and family groups. We will apologize directly to the community leaders. We will come to your house every month. Whatever you ask, we will do it. Daniel added, We are not asking you to help us like before. We just ask for a chance to fix everything. And please, don't let Ethan and Chloe lose their future. I looked at both of them. Their eyes were filled with remorse. This was no longer arrogance or self-defense. This was an honest confession from two people who had hit rock bottom. I took a deep breath and spoke calmly but firmly. I will not let my grandchildren suffer. But my way of helping is changing. They looked at me expectantly. First, all financial support from me is only for Ethan and Chloe's education and health. No more help for the mortgage, the car, renovations, or your lifestyle. That is entirely your responsibility. They nodded quickly. Second, you must take over the mortgage completely. If you can't afford it, you have to move to housing you can afford within the next 2 months. I will not pay another installment, Una cried harder, but she nodded. Daniel bowed his head, his hands clenched in his lap. Third, Una must work. No more excuses. The kids are older now. Both of you must work to support your own family, Una answered with a shaky voice. I've applied for a few jobs, Dad. I have an interview at the grocery store next week. Good. Any honest work is respectable. Fourth, you must prepare a monthly household finance report. Show it to me. Not for me to control you, but for you to learn to manage money correctly. Daniel nodded. Yes, sir. Fifth, every month, you must come here as a family. No excuses. This is not for me to check up on you, but to keep the family bond intact. They both nodded, tears streaming down their faces. Then I stood up. I opened my desk drawer and took out 2 savings passbooks. I placed them on the table. These are savings accounts I opened for Ethan and Chloe's education since they were born. $150,000 in each. Una and Daniel stared at the passbooks, eyes wide. These funds are controlled directly by me. You cannot cash them out on a whim. This is for their education, not to plug your financial holes. When they need money for school, lessons, or college, I will disperse it directly to the school or institution. Una cried, thanking me repeatedly. Daniel bowed his head, his body trembling with sobs. I am not abandoning you, but I will no longer be an ATM that can be withdrawn from any time. You must learn to stand on your own feet, for your own good, and for your children's future. After the conversation, I called Ethan and Chloe back in. They came with hopeful faces. I sat on the floor, at their level. Ethan, Chloe, listen to Grandpa carefully. I love you both. I have set aside savings for your schooling until college. You don't need to worry about the cost of school. Ethan hugged me and said, I will study hard, Grandpa. I promise. Chloe took a folded piece of paper from her pocket. She carefully unfolded it and showed it to me. It was a drawing of their family of 4, with me standing in the middle. My arms were stretched out, hugging them all. Below the drawing, Chloe wrote in crayon, Grandpa, our savior." I hugged Chloe tight. My tears fell, no longer controllable. 3 months later, a lot had changed. Una was working as a supervisor cashier at the grocery store. Her salary wasn't big, but it helped with daily expenses. Daniel changed jobs. He was now a motorcycle delivery courier, delivering packages between towns. The work was tough, but the income was decent. They finally let go of the house in Oak Creek Estates. They couldn't afford the mortgage. Now they rented a small apartment near the community park. It was modest but comfortable. 2 bedrooms, a small living room, a basic kitchen. The electricity never went out again because they paid the bill on time. The neighbors in their new place were friendlier. No one knew their old story. They were starting over with humility. The first Sunday of every month, they came to my house. Sometimes bringing a simple meal Una cooked. Sometimes just empty-handed, but with genuine smiles. Ethan and Chloe always ran ahead, hugging me at the door. The first family gathering was held at my house. Everyone was on time. The food was brought potluck style. Nothing was fancy, but everything was made with heart. Una's clam chowder, Daniel's crispy fried chicken, my own apple pie. After eating, I stood up, looking at everyone present. Daniel, Una, Ethan, Chloe, Uncle Richard, Aunt Rachel, Mr. Wallace, Mrs. Harrison. I'm not asking you to be hugely successful. I'm not asking you to be rich. I'm only asking you to live honestly and know how to be grateful. Everyone was silent. Una cried softly. Daniel nodded, his eyes glistening. That night, after everyone left, I sat alone in the living room, looking at my late wife's photo hanging on the wall. Her face was smiling softly, as always. "I don't regret helping them, my dear," I whispered. But in the end, I also had to save myself and teach them how to truly live. I closed my eyes, feeling the cool night breeze coming through the window. My heart was calm, not because they were perfect, but because they had finally started to learn. Retribution wasn't about seeking revenge, but about restoring dignity without losing love. Sometimes, true love is the love that has the courage to say no. The love that allows them to fall so they can learn to rise on their own 2 feet. And that night, for the first time in 17 years, I slept with a truly peaceful heart. Epilogue. Harvest time. 6 years later, Flagstaff, Arizona. The old oak chair in my home office still held a prime spot by the window, but my view had changed. It was no longer a place of lonely contemplation, it was a vantage point. It was a bright, crisp Saturday in late October. The aspen trees around Flagstaff were a riot of gold and red. The house was noisy, not with argument, but with life. Ethan Miller, now 18, tall, and heading into his 2nd year at the University of Arizona on a partial engineering scholarship, was in the kitchen, carefully measuring flour for his grandma's famous oatmeal cookies. He was meticulous, just like his civil engineer grandfather. Chloe Scott, 16, full of energy and talent, was sitting cross-legged on the Persian rug, practicing a challenging piece on her old keyboard, the music filling the living room. I sat on the porch swing, watching the morning sun illuminate the garden, when a modest sedan pulled into the driveway. It wasn't fancy, a practical 5-year-old Toyota Corolla, but it was paid for. Una stepped out, followed by Daniel. Una wore a tailored blazer. She was now a regional manager for the grocery store chain, overseeing 3 locations. She looked fit, confident, and genuinely happy. Daniel, still in his courier uniform, looked leaner, and his face was tanned from years on the road, but the defeated look was gone, replaced by a quiet, grounded strength. "Hey, Dad," Una called out, her voice bright. "Hi, Grandpa," Daniel greeted, carrying a 6-pack of craft beer and a fresh bouquet of flowers. They came in and immediately settled into the familiar Sunday routine. Una went straight to the kitchen to help Ethan, but not to take over. They worked side by side, discussing Ethan's thermodynamics class and Una's quarterly budget projection. Daniel came out to the porch and sat next to me. The delivery schedule was brutal this week, but I managed to finish early, Daniel said, taking a sip of the coffee I handed him. You're working too hard, son, I observed. I know, but the last payment for the Corolla is next month. We'll be debt-free, except for the new small mortgage on the condo, he replied, a hint of pride in his voice. They had not been able to save the house in Phoenix, but they had bought a small 2-bedroom condo in a modest development outside of Tucson, closer to Yuna's work and Ethan's university. They managed the mortgage themselves, using a strict, low-interest plan. They had learned to live within their means, and the peace of mind was priceless. Daniel then pulled out a thin leather portfolio, not the thick, messy pile of papers from 6 years ago. Inside were 2 neat sheets, their monthly budget report, complete with income from Yuna's managerial, salary and Daniel's courier work, itemized expenses, and a growing savings column. We hit our target for the emergency fund this quarter, Dad. $20,000, Daniel said, pointing to the number. It took 5 years, but we finally have a safety net. I didn't need to check the numbers. I knew they were honest. That's excellent, Daniel. Your mother would be proud of how you've handled things. He looked at me, his gaze steady and sincere. I'm sorry I never told you thank you back then, Dad. For the condo, for the SUV, for everything you did before. But mostly, thank you for stopping. You saved us from ourselves. I just nodded. No need for long apologies anymore. The action spoke louder than words. Later, during lunch, a simple but delicious meal of homemade chili and cornbread, I addressed the family. Ethan, your tuition payment for next semester is ready. It will be transferred directly to the university account next week, I announced. Ethan smiled gratefully. Thanks, Grandpa. I'll make the dean's list again. Then I looked at Chloe. Chloe, your piano teacher, Ms. Linda, called me this week. She said you are good enough now to audition for the Juilliard Summer Arts program in New York next year. I have already secured a separate fund to cover the application and audition costs. And if you get in, the full program fee. Chloe gasped, dropping her fork. Her eyes welled up. Really, Grandpa? New York? Yes, really. Your future is yours to seize. You just need to have the courage to reach for it. Yuna and Daniel sat quietly, their eyes full of emotion, but this time there was no resentment, no envy. They understood. This was the difference between enabling and empowering. My help now was not propping up their consumption, it was investing in their children's dreams, which they themselves had been working hard to support. The day ended as it always did, with hugs and genuine goodbyes. As Daniel and Yuna drove away, waving through the car window, I watched them go, a profound sense of closure settling over me. I went back to the living room and picked up Chloe's discarded sheet music. It was a complex, beautiful piece, full of dissonances and resolutions. I walked over to my wife's photo on the mantel. She was still smiling. They learned, my love, I whispered. They found the light by finding their own strength. It was the hardest thing I've ever done, but it was the only way to save all of us. The house was quiet again, but this time it was a peaceful quiet. The quiet of a journey completed, a lesson learned, and a family whole again, built not on money, but on honesty and respect. The true harvest was not the dollars I kept, but the dignity I regained and the strength I fostered in the generation to come.